Well, Sugar Sean O'Malley has a new opponent at UFC 264 after Louis Smolka was forced to withdraw from the bout. And it's a newly signed fighter, Kris Moutinho. Now, this comes after many a bantamweight and featherweight fighters raised their hand to fight O'Malley at the next pay-per-view in July. You had Merab Davishvili, you had Ricky Simone. I'm missing a couple others here, but you had some big names. You had a whole bunch of people saying
Stamen.
like, "Hey, Stamen, there you go." You had a ton of people raise their hands, say, "Yes, I want to fight Sean O'Malley." Seemed to make sense because again, O'Malley is a star in the sense that the UFC is trying to push him in that way, and he does seem to have some pull. But the UFC has gone ahead and signed a guy off the street to fight him. Instead of a Compelli, Stamen, Simone, Davishvili matchup, we get Kris Moutinho, who's 9-4 versus Sean O'Malley. Drake, is this the right call by the UFC, especially after O'Malley's last performance?
By the UFC? Yeah, I mean, I guess so. And if you want to keep things that O'Malley train on them rails, because as much as I hate to give credit to one Jed Mishu at MMA Fighting, shout out to him, but I love what he said when this was going down. He tweeted out that the UFC has done a great job of seeing what Bellator did with MVP and doing the exact same thing with Sean O'Malley, because he is really getting into that boat, especially with this fight being made now. I mean, even with Smolka getting made, I was like, that's not the one to do. No offense to Smolka. I do love me some Smolka, but this doesn't make no sense. So bringing in Kris Moutinho here, who I have seen before, and he's all right, but he's a newcomer into the UFC, and it's not going to go his way, right? If it does, that'd be a huge upset. And just the funniest part, of course, is that everybody was open to this fight.
Everyone was.
And as I mentioned with Stamen, apparently he's already in Vegas and like ready to go. And then, as you mentioned, Pat, 145 and whatnot too. And so O'Malley, his reasoning for turning down some of these guys or whatever was because they wanted it to be at 145. Ricky, for example, I think probably Stamen too. He's a bigger guy. Davishvili, I'm sure too, maybe. So, most of these guys were 135 or so because of the short notice. They couldn't quite get down to 135, and the UFC still want to do 135 for whatever reason. Whereas that was O'Malley's thing too, was saying, yeah, no, I'm going to do the 135. But on his podcast, 2 days before the news came out, he said, and I'm not sure if it was specific to Ricky, but that he was totally fine with 145. So there's proof of him saying this, but yet he goes back on it and the narrative's being spun a little bit now, which, man, we can see what's happening here, and so we've been able to see what's been happening here. And it's frustrating because after that last win that he did have, and I mean, even sometime before it probably, I think that him and Ricky should have fought already, like that's a matchup that makes plenty of sense. They both have some momentum. Ricky's really got back on a roll after the losses that he suffered to Rob Font and Uriah Faber. That fight makes perfect sense to me, and I was calling for that after, O'Malley's last one, but had the chance to do it, not doing it because, the one side doesn't appear to actually want to do that for, whatever reasons, but MVP, that's all I guess we can look at there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at this and not immediately jump to, oh, this is MVP in Bellator, just all over again. Just especially after, O'Malley lost to Vera. I think that losing to Marlon Vera was a big deal because the O'Malley train was definitely on a ride. Had he got past Vera, had he kept going on a major winning streak, I think you're looking at someone who had the potential to, I don't know about being a big crossover star. That would have needed some bigger high profile wins, some more media attention to see how the mainstream would have, kind of adapted to him, but he already has a cult following in MMA, and it was the potential was there for sure, which is a rarity. And I think the UFC sees that. I think they look at his merchandise numbers, which O'Malley's talked about, as well as his viewer numbers, and they say, man, he has the potential to be massive. And after that Vera loss, they probably looked back at the numbers and say, okay, he's still a draw. We just got to kind of put him on that right path. And that's what they're doing. As you mentioned, I feel like Simone or even Stamen would make sense to an extent. Davishvili, honestly, I don't know about that, because I think Davishvili is just a tough out for anybody, and that's kind of But I think Simone or Stamen would have been fine and good tests for him from a purely like, hey, we want to see this.
And that's why he's not fighting him.
Exactly.
They're perfect tests.
They're great tests for him, especially after his performances. O'Malley against Almeida went about as well as the promotion could have hoped, because O'Malley just wrecked him. And so I think at this point it's a short notice plays a lot into it, where maybe it's hard for O'Malley to do something on short notice too on his end. And so they want to give him that extra cushion by giving him somebody, off the street. But the danger here, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, is that if Kris Moutinho, is that right, man? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I'm pronouncing names right today. If Kris Moutinho, comes in here and wins, that's the end of the O'Malley hype train, right? Like, that's the real risk here. Is you lose to Ricky Simone, you lose to Stamen. Okay, it hurts you, but you at least have some reasoning for losing that. But if he loses to a 9-4 dude who just got signed, that's pretty much a career killer, I would imagine, right?
It does not help. It does not help. And these kind of situations too are oftentimes more dangerous because of the fact that he's got nothing to lose. What a great spot to be in. This is, not do or die at all for him. Sure, he gets in the UFC. If he loses, all right, he lost to Sean O'Malley on short notice. Okay, and that's probably what's going to happen, right? So, but if it doesn't, boy, you have one potential new star. Of course, there's always that possibility with upsets like that. But then the other guy, they take a big hit. Not that they can't recover, but after already having had that halt already, that was pretty bad. And the treatment, since and whatnot. Yeah, that would be a tough one. We'll see, man. We will see.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, I get it from a business perspective, but it also, it's to me a little bit more riskier, where you wonder if they couldn't have found somebody out of the bantamweights who raised their hand, who at least had some name value. Probably O'Malley is still favored regardless, and you get that done. Because a guy off the street, if he, which I keep saying off the street, that's sorry, it's not disrespectful. He is a pro fighter. I'm happy he got signed. This is a great opportunity for him, right? Like, great job there. But a new signee, unless he then goes on to become just amazing, right, and becomes the next champion or contender, losing to him is kills all of your revenue from a business perspective. That's so I'm wrestling with this from the UFC's point of view, where they must have some numbers or some metric that says that this made more sense than the risk outweighed the reward here for giving him a name for whatever reason. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it is if he lost twice because he's already lost to Vera. So then if he loses to another name guy again, that's still, a kind of death knell on his stardom anyway. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting fight. And yeah, we'll see what O'Malley can do on short notice, I guess, as well as Kris.
Yeah, and what I was going to say, though, was I think that actually, though, in a case like this, as bad as the loss by itself, as bad as that would be, it has now become potentially a whole lot worse because of the scenario where everyone was raising their hands. O'Malley said he was willing to fight at 145 and then not to get out of it. This is definitely a death blow now that I really think about it. If he does lose, like, boy, especially, with, trying to, anything he says, no one will take serious, after that kind of thing. Like, he really dug himself potentially into a hole. So back against the wall a little bit in terms of pressure, maybe. I don't think it'll be too bad, but it's much more of a must win now, I think, because of that. So
no, 100%. If O'Malley doesn't win this, you're right. It's over. Especially because he said he would fight at 145 and then change his mind. It is a must-win situation for O'Malley. Watch him lose and get cut. Wouldn't that be something? Holy crap. That would just be
yeah.
That'd be something else. Let us know how you feel about this matchup. Do you think O'Malley should have taken a bigger name? One of the Davishvilis, Simone's, Stamens. Do you think he should have fought at 145? Right, you have some plausible deniability because you're moving up a weight class, so you got some options there. Or do you think it makes sense that the UFC gives him a new signee on short notice that he should hypothetically be able to get through to kind of protect his stardom and protect his image? What do you think is the right call here? Let us know. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, bell notification, and Sugar Show on July 10th. We'll see if the Sugar Show gets renewed for another season. That's what this is really going to come down to.